Correct, yes. You are not in the shot. You're in the shot. You are... Keep going, keep going, keep going. You're out of the shot. 2 minutes. You are not in the shot. No. The only thing you gotta worry about is 1. Oh, and 3 has a weird angle, so, yeah. Hold on real quick. No. Sorry. Is that 90 seconds? 90 seconds. I don't know math. Remind Barry he's coming in on there at 4. Yeah, you'll fade that out in like 9 seconds, actually. Or like 45 seconds, so. All right, let's see. Live in 60 seconds. Yes. Yes. We'll see what it looks like. Zoom out. That's good. Go to the left. Hand to the left. Perfect. And, yep, perfect.
Awesome. Okay, Emily, so just let you know, if you feel like slowly
30
stick
seconds
your arm
to
out,
live.
I'm going to tell you when. 30 seconds. All right, yeah, you're in. So basically...
Go ahead and fade out the computer music.
That works.
Except when the shot is meant to be What's up, the girl that's...
Deandra, let's fade out.
20 seconds.
Let's fade out that computer music. Ready, camera 1, and to open A1. Oh, goodbye. And all right, tell them stand by. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fade camera 1. Cue talent. Ready, camera 4.
Hi, welcome to our online screening of Confronting COVID, HPU's Extraordinary Experience. I am Barry Thornburg, one of the co-professors of our journalism documentary course, and we have been spending all semester working on this documentary, and we are excited to share it with you. Aren't you all excited? I'm excited. Yeah, okay, cool. We're all excited. Okay, good. All right, so enjoy afterwards. Please join us, or please continue joining us. Oh, nuts. Please stay with us after the film to
Ready, clips 1.
Enjoy to watch our Q&A with the students as they talk about the making of the film. Thank you very much, and we will see you after the film.
And slow fade clips 1, open clips 1 audio. Roll clips. Beautiful.
Just because I don't want to experience.
They are clear.
Barely anyone alive had seen anything like this.
He's clear.
A worldwide pandemic, and no one was immune.
20 minutes, or 20.
High Point University had always thought of itself as something apart, something extraordinary, protected by its ornate gates.
Perfect.
But COVID-19 didn't stop for barriers, even at one of the nation's elite universities. It left High Point with questions.
I'm like, okay, what happens next now?
It left the university with hard work.
We felt like we needed to come together as kind of a reactionary team in emergency response, like we do for hurricane response or even ice storms.
And it left everyone with plenty of uncertainty.
Nobody knows anything about this. Like, we don't know what it could do, like how long it lasts.
This is the story of how one university dealt with the pandemic that changed the world. When you are on a college campus during a global pandemic, everything gets a grade.
I would probably give us an A. I mean, we've been responsive to each and every single case. I probably know almost every single one of those cases. and their symptoms and how well they've done.
Gail Tuttle is in charge of student life at High Point University and helps with the response to COVID-19. Her job is as much handling people's reactions as it is people's health status.
For the parents, I mean, imagine that call to your parent saying, I'm COVID positive, and so there's a lot of fear associated for the parent.
Gail's job is to manage that fear by trying to keep life as normal as possible for students.
We did struggle a little bit with the food delivery initially with some of the logistics, but I think that's normal. But overall, we fixed it.
Giselle Manzi is a success coach at High Point, one of the aspects of HPU that sets it apart, as they prepare students not just academically, but for all that life throws at them.
The questions was, or it was going to come, did we get extra responsibilities? Yes, we sure did. So on top of doing my daily routine, meeting with students and flags and everything that we do as success coaches, we were asked to deliver meals to our students that were quarantined or isolated on campus and off campus, and we were also later asked to deliver packages.
Make a video for one of my midterms, and then the other one I have to.
At the beginning, it was very, 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 very stressful because my day never ended. It was 10 p.m. and sometimes I was making calls at that time. And so I'm literally in my PJs, just making phone calls and annotating symptoms or sending emails to, because if something was wrong, then we would have to send emails to, we have a team that, it kind of alerts this whole party system, and then they will take care of whatever and then get back to us and, get in touch with the student.
We get noticed by positive. We get emailed by student health. The practitioners email us and say, this person is positive. We are interested in knowing when their symptoms started, because if they're positive, they are in isolation for 10 days. 10 days from the point the symptoms started, not the day the test was taken. We then place them in a hotel. We tell them where to go, and then we process a letter that we've tweaked that letter with information about how to be in isolation and quarantine probably about 10 times, adding information from resource perspectives, educating them on what's going to happen with the Guilford County Health Department.
However, with so many steps to the protocol, there is no playbook during a pandemic and everyone is aiming at moving targets.
Everybody has to be met in person. Everything has to be in person. Everything has to be normal. And so that at the beginning was very uneasy for all of us because, we're getting students from all over the country and, and international. And so we were all worried how that was going to affect the way that we interacted with our students and the way that we would not necessarily treat them, because we treat everybody equally with respect, with love and compassion. But we were just wondering, how is this going to affect my relationship with my students?
We're very entrepreneurial in spirit, almost in everything that we do. So we know how to flex when we need to.
Some things worked, other things did not work, and we found out very quickly.
I do not want to experience something like this again.
And I feel like for us in our house, it was a freak accident that it happened.
Paula Bender and Kaylee Tolson never thought they'd end up here.
I feel like people assume that once you have it, you were out partying or seeing a lot of people.
In reality, that isn't always the case for college students around the country.
Even people who are being really safe can still get it. I always took it very seriously, but I think just getting it myself kind of put into perspective how easily it's spread and how many people are affected by it.
While cases have spiked at schools throughout North Carolina, HPU has decided to remain in person and follow all CDC guidelines. Close contacts of COVID-19 positive cases are always required to quarantine for 2 weeks to monitor if they become symptomatic. And Kaylee experienced this along with 13 of her sorority sisters.
But even now, going back to school, I knew that it was going to be difficult to stay away from just because of the student body and how many students live together and see each other, and you can't control what other students do. So I was wearing my mask, I was washing my hands, I was using hand sanitizer.
Although students are doing their best to prevent exposure, this journey has taken a toll on everyone in quarantine.
I think it's very hard emotionally to be isolated completely, not able to see anyone, and it's not something that we as humans like to do.
This takes a lot out of a person, not only because you're not able to see your friends every day, but because I have just been trapped to the walls in my room. We all kind of worked together to help lift each other's spirits up because we knew that we were all going through it together. It's a struggle, and I couldn't imagine being in the actual hotel by myself if this is how I felt being in a house with my sisters.
Unlike Paula, who is in isolation by herself,
That's been really nice to always know that someone's gonna call and check in to see how you're doing.
Every person that either gets into close contact or gets diagnosed has a case manager assigned to them, and that case manager reaches out to you every day. So we knew that if we got emotional, needed someone to speak to, needed connections, we could reach out to them and they would help us as well.
We get a list, and these are the students that have been quarantined, and we are supposed to track or call them every day, making sure that they, checking on their symptoms, making sure that they have food, making sure that they're okay. If they have any issues, helping them resolve it because they're not supposed to leave their room.
Hi, so I'm currently in quarantine and I'm gonna show you my meals that I got.
Okay, so it's 7:23 on Thursday night and I'm supposed to make this food last until Tuesday morning. Starting off, we have 2 plates and utensils. Moving to drinks, I got no water, but I have 2 orange juices, 2 chocolate milks, and 2 Sprites. For breakfast, I have a banana nut muffin, Cheerios, a banana that probably won't be ready until Tuesday, and 2 Chobani yogurts. I also have a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant. For lunch, we have 5 slices of white bread and ham and turkey, a pre-made salad, 2 sea salt chips, and 2 Smart Food popcorns, a singular apple. Moving to dinner, 2 Kraft mac and cheese, 2 containers of shrimp, 2 containers of chicken, and I think this is steak. For dessert, we have 2 sugar cookies, and then 1 mayo and 4 peanut butters.
the university soon decided that delivering meals each day made more sense, and that's not the only thing they adjusted.
They're even catering to 2 of the girls in our house are gluten-free. So they're even catering to them and making sure that the bread they use for them is gluten-free and the dietary restrictions are met. We have an absurd amount of food. So the school has done an absolutely fantastic job with making sure that we aren't not only fed, but we're well fed.
Ordering meals is not the only virtual aspect for isolated students, who are still expected to attend their classes online and keep up with coursework.
A lot of my professors have been very flexible with the virtual learning and making sure that students that are online are still participating and getting that participation credit. I have had a little difficulty with one of my classes where the professor didn't quite plan properly for how many students were going to be out.
But for the most part, all my professors were really accommodating, and they all let me know that if I needed extensions on anything because I was feeling sick, they would grant those.
I've kind of learned that I love going to class and that I love seeing my friends, and I'm actually going to take every single advantage of going to class after this. I'm so excited.
The isolation period opened students' eyes to the reality of living amidst a global pandemic.
I don't want any of my friends or my family or anyone to have to go through something like this, so I think I've just learned to take even more precautions and be super safe, especially now that cases are going up.
Being mindful of wearing the mask, even though they're your best friend and you see them all of the time and you're used to wearing a mask and you feel comfortable, just that sense of maybe always keeping it in your back pocket and always wearing it, because you don't know at this point with these weeks that have been coming up and how high our cases are now, you don't really know who's been in close contact and who hasn't.
So I was like really concerned for my health and like my family's health too, because I was like, nobody knows anything about this. Like, we don't know what it could do, like how long it lasts.
Rebecca Andrades had no idea how much of an impact COVID-19 would have on her life.
Honestly, especially when it comes to my grandma, I was very, very concerned because she's usually in and out of the hospital. She just has a very weak immune system, so I was very concerned for her health and didn't know what it could do to her. But she's strong. She's like fighting through it right now. So hopefully we can see her again soon.
Her grandmother is one out of 7 family members to contract COVID-19.
Heartbreaking because you see all of this and it's just like there's nothing you can do about it, you know. And plus, like, they're older, so they're not gonna their bodies are not gonna respond to it the same way like us. Like, I may get it, but I might not suffer the same like outcomes, you know. And it's just like with her, when I talk to her over the phone like I did last week, it was just very hard listening to her because she was like, you could tell that she was struggling to breathe and just like get some words out and talk to me. So like we only talked for like 30 seconds, but it was still nice to hear her voice.
Rebecca ended up testing positive for COVID on the day of our first interview. After quarantining, we followed up with her to learn more about her experience.
I think the worst part of having COVID was like 2 days where I couldn't really breathe to my full potential. So I was a little scared, but I got medicine. I got like an inhaler, and that totally helped. And then I had one of my cousins just bring me like over-the-counter medicine, and took that. Felt so much better.
While the virus may not have had much of an effect on her health, it influenced her college career in more ways than one.
It was heartbreaking. Honestly, when we got that email right like after spring break, I cried. I was like, literally, like, it was heartbreaking for me, especially because like in high school, college was not in my future, and so like coming to High Point University like was just a miracle for me. So I was like, oh my god, like I get to be the first the first graduate in my family, like I'm gonna like enjoy all my years, and this happened, and I was like, oh no, you know.
Despite all of that, Rebecca found things that she got from the experience she might not otherwise have done.
Because of the pandemic, I was able to do this master's program, and I really pushed myself to do my best. I have never had the grades that I have right now. Like, I have really good grades, and I just feel like, I don't know, it's just shown me that I can do so much better than I did before, you know, and I'm still trying to like do my best and like go above and beyond and challenge myself even more.
Brandy Fontaine is HPU's women's soccer coach. For her, the challenge was how to turn a canceled season into a life lesson.
But overall, I think it's actually challenged me as a coach. Like this opportunity has challenged me as a coach, our players in general in life, and it's really taught us to value the things that are the small things that, you know, maybe the opportunities like being able to just get out on the field and train even if we can't take, you know, we can't have games, like just being able to value those opportunities that we have has really helped us grow as people and as a team altogether.
For Lauren Mazik, a key player on the team, the pandemic threatened to cancel her senior season.
It's definitely brought us closer together, just knowing that we're going through it together and that we have to get through it together. But from a team bonding standpoint, I think it's definitely separated us a bit more just because we can't hang out as a team like we normally do.
Athletic teams are used to conforming for a group result, but Rebecca has found that same idea isn't as ingrained in the student body as a whole.
I still think we need to just social distance and still wear a mask. I have seen a lot of people not wearing their mask out here on campus. Like, we were doing really well at the beginning, and now people are just kind of like, I don't know if they're just like forgetting or just like not doing it at all, but I feel like there needs to be something said about just stricter like mask policy or something like that.
The women's soccer team is doing the best it can to follow the mask policy while still playing the sport they love.
Yeah, so when we're in lift, we have to wear masks. That's been a rule implemented as we've gotten further into the school year, that masks are required in the weight room, but on the field, we are not required to wear them at the moment.
You know, we're functioning pretty normal. I mean, the greatest thing is we're outside, so there's not as much, you know, worry with just being in the fresh air. You know, we have a little bit of worry there, but we try to break them off into groups, make sure they're not standing near each other, being smart, wearing their masks when it's needed and necessary. So yeah, I think overall we're keeping them out of the locker room. Those types of things, we're taking extra precautions and other ways to make sure we keep them safe.
This isn't the athletic year Lauren imagined, but she's still grateful for every second.
I would definitely say don't take things for granted, just because, you know, especially in the spring, we just took going to practice as like an everyday thing, and all of a sudden we couldn't practice with each other for months. And even now it's kind of like, you know, practice could be shut down again any day. So it's kind of like, you know, don't take anything for granted, make it all count, and just take advantage of the opportunities you have together, because we really don't know what's going to happen next at this point.
As of right now, the women's soccer team is scheduled to have a season in the spring of 2021. They may have missed out on a season this fall, but amidst the pandemic, they will take what they can get. While the women's soccer team is limited in ways they can socialize, the HBU Campus Activities team has worked tirelessly to keep all students entertained but safe. During this uncertain time, HBU relies on what it calls its wow factor when it comes to events. Part of that is a series of events the university constantly puts on. Taylor Kaplan, the president of Campus Activities team, says the transition from virtual to in-person events has been interesting.
So at the beginning of the semester, we planned to only have virtual events, and that really gave us the flexibility if we were to go online at any point, or for the students that are in quarantine, they have the ability to go to those events. But now that numbers have started to go down and we have a little more positive outcome that we're going to be able to stay throughout the semester, we've branched out a little and put a little more risk into our event planning, and so we've started to book in-person events and just really hoping for the best, because that's all we can do.
A different organization decided to keep students busy. HBU Dining came up with the idea to have food trucks.
I would say my biggest fear about running these events is just knowing that I'm putting myself at risk for COVID, and just not really knowing, because people are asymptomatic or people don't know if they have COVID or not, and so there's really just no way of knowing if your events are really safe or not.
The SGA president, Sam Carr, seems to hold the same fear.
I do get worried that, you know, the wrong student may get it who has, you know, a compromised immune system, or a professor or a staff member may get it and may not recover. That's a concern that I'm sure all of us have, but I would say the biggest way to combat that is for the students to be following those policies.
The school administration feels it is striking the right balance between keeping students both safe and connected, but it's a plan that is always changing.
To me, I always felt that it was kind of two-sided, and so it was like a, what do we call it, like mixed messages in a way. Went from like being super strict to like come to bingo night or something, you know, like something like that. I kind of wish people would take it just a little bit more seriously.
Giselle's family is in Florida, but she is originally from Argentina. She is close with family members in both places, but the restrictions of international travel have made it difficult for her to spend time with them.
For Christmas and New Year's, every year, that's our tradition. We get together and we celebrate. But this year, things might be a little bit different. And, you know, we're trying to be positive. It was my aunt's birthday, and we had all FaceTimed to sing happy birthday like we usually do. And, you know, she shared, she was like, oh, yeah, you know, your uncle is sick. He's with a fever. He can't break it. He declined so quickly. He went in, they tested him, tested positive. And then he went into a coma because the fever was so high, and it just spiraled out of control. And I think the biggest pain is listening to my aunt, because she said, you know, when I sent them to go to the hospital, I didn't even kiss them. I just said, okay, I'll see you later.
Sadly, Giselle's uncle passed due to COVID. As Giselle has reflected over the past few weeks, she realized that morning while working really took a toll on her.
I mean, physically I was here at work. Mentally I wasn't so much. and I had to push through the pain because as much as I wanted to kind of take a break, I couldn't, and I just didn't want to be by myself. So I just worked through the pain. It just made it very hard because I felt like I couldn't detach myself from the university.
With such strenuous times, some students remind themselves of the situation at hand. After 9 months of dealing with the storm of the pandemic that wreaked havoc on everyone's lives, the students feel happy to have survived.
I feel like HPU is taking good precautions, but it's also like inevitable, you know, like it's bound to happen. Like it's a pandemic.
With such strenuous times, some students remind themselves of the situation at hand. After 9 months of dealing with the storm of the pandemic that wreaked havoc on everyone's lives, the students feel happy to have survived.
I feel like HPU is taking good precautions, but it's also like inevitable, you know, like it's bound to happen. Like it's a pandemic.
Paula leaves her fellow students with a post on Instagram that is a sort of confessional and a piece of advice.
I know this is becoming a reality for more and more people. This virus is not a hoax, it's not a joke, and it's definitely not something to take lightly. I promise you, you do not want to go through this. I know it's hard to really understand the severity of this virus until you or someone you love has it.
And as hard as it was for students, the administration feels like it is still in the middle of its own crash course in dealing with a crisis.
2 minutes.
And as for High Point's results in numbers, the university did see a major spike in the positive case count at the start of the semester when students all came from different areas of the country. But with time and with the response plan, HPU felt it got its caseload under control.
Can you have all of them clap?
And on the value of treating each other with grace,
there was a lot of information, just overload of effectiveness of tests. What is the most effective test? How can you get those results back? But I mean, it was full of challenges, but I think it also taught us a lot about opportunities.
120. Just tell them like clap for like 4 or 5.
Especially because in the beginning, I think we were all very hard on ourselves. And now looking back, there were so many days where I cried and I stressed and there were so many times where I was just like, what is going on? Like anything else, you want me to go cut the grass? Like what else, you know? And I got to a point where I just had to take it one day at a time. And just really, accept the things that are coming through and, try it. If it works, great. And if it doesn't, then we move on.
Ready to go to camera, ready to dissolve to camera
to know that there's people that are always assessing the situation is kind of helpful. And I'm very curious to see what the spring semester is going to be like.
28 seconds.
Credits are rolling, and then you will...
Is there anything after this?
Is there anything after credits? Yeah. Special thanks and 13, 12,
11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fade camera 1, cue clapping. Ready camera 4. Take 4.
You guys very much deserve that. We did it, everyone.
Ready, camera 1.
We did. That's pretty cool. I'm Bob Buckley, by the way. I'm anchor and reporter at WGHP TV Fox 8 here in town.
Take 4.
And I'm the instructor, professor who worked along with Professor Thornburg to put all this together. More importantly, though, these are the 7 young women who did all that hard work. So I want to start, before we talk to them about that work.
Ready, camera 2.
Let us know where you're from.
All right. Oh, hello. My name is Emily Nagel. I am a senior, and I am from Boston, Massachusetts.
Watch their mic audios or levels.
Hi, I'm Morgan Kaufman. I'm a senior as well, and I'm from Orlando, Florida.
Hi, I'm Taylor Irish. I'm a senior as well, and I am from Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
Ready, camera 3.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Graham. I'm a senior, and I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina.
Take 3.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Hefner. I'm a junior, and I'm from Lenore, North Carolina.
Ready, camera 1.
Hi, I'm Kinsey Hansley. I am a senior, and I'm from Topsail Island, North Carolina.
And I'm Allie Patterson. I'm a senior, and I'm from Fort Mill, South Carolina.
Take 1.
You know, we see productions like
Ready, camera
this,
4.
and they seem to
Take
just
4.
be natural. Well, of course,
4's out of
that
focus.
was done that way. It was easy, right? It all just flowed together. You
Let's
guys
see,
now
camera,
have true understanding
ready,
of how
camera
difficult
1.
this can be. So I want to start by
Take
asking
1.
you, what were you thinking it was going to look like in that first day or two
Beautiful.
we had class?
Ben, where are
What
you
did
by
you think
chance?
we were going to produce?
Okay, well.
Ready, camera 2, take 2.
I guess I didn't think it was going to be as long as it was. I was kind of thinking that we were only
let's
going
get
to
closer
do
in
like,
with Bob.
something
Let's
very
cut off the
short, like 8
monitor
to
about
10
halfway.
minutes. I kind of like that it's a little bit longer because I think it shows that we got a lot of information. There was a lot
Zoom out
of
a smidge.
information to be told.
Perfect.
I don't think I thought it was going to be as hard as it ended up being. I definitely think that I learned how to balance a lot. And this obviously requires a lot of attention.
Camera
but you
3,
have
let's
other
get a
classes going on
close-up
as well. So it was
of,
interesting to learn how
the
to
girl who's
balance
talking.
it, and I didn't know going into it how much it was going to work, how much work there was going to be.
She's hot.
So it was interesting learning that along the way.
We're not taking that.
I would say I think there was more depth to the story than I
ready,
expected
3.
there to be. We obviously came in, we
Take 3.
had an experience in pandemic in college, so we were learning these things.
Feel free to be a
as we
little
were
faster on
filming
those
and
camera
interviewing
movements
people,
because we'll just start
getting
looking around.
footage. So I think it was really interesting that we got so many different perspectives and made sure we really covered our boundaries.
It's the big, massive
when I really
black
thought, oh, we'll
things.
have a few students in quarantine, maybe they'll want to come. So.
All of them.
Anyone else want to talk about that? Okay, go ahead. Kenzie?
I was just going to speak on, I know some of the people that were in this class actually were in quarantine
Allie, you're in charge.
during this process as well. So that was kind of a big difficulty I think that we faced. We were talking about it a little bit earlier that, you know, not only were we balancing our classes and trying to make sure we got this done, but there was also people who were in the hotels or who were back home because unfortunately they did get COVID or they were in close contact with it. So I think that was also a really hard aspect about doing this was not only were we struggling with having to balance with their other classes, but we were struggling because some of our classmates were experiencing it firsthand, which is not only scary, but it's also hard to do a project when people are missing.
You know, this was really kind of a good news, bad news, because rarely coming into a semester are we going to have such a hard news happening right now thing we can do a documentary on. You guys had that. The downside is it's really tough to do it in the middle of a pandemic. So what did you guys find was the biggest challenge?
Ready, camera 2.
So I think kind of adding on to what Kenzie said, I think the semester was kind of unknown. No one knew how long we would stay, whether it be 1 week, 3 weeks, 10 weeks. And I think also the biggest challenge was people going in and out of quarantine. Like we were like living in the documentary that we were filming essentially. So yeah, and then with CDC guidelines like constantly changing with like 10 people in person inside and then it goes to like 20 person outside and back and forth. I think the challenge was like none of us knew like what to expect. A new day was something new to film and we kind of just had to we had to like make it work and yeah, I think that was the biggest challenge.
Any other challenges, Emily?
Yeah, going off all
Emily,
of that, because I think just this whole semester for everyone is a challenge in itself. But I think also just being able to get the footage we needed was a bit of a challenge because there's so many instances where, oh, maybe that person wasn't comfortable filming, or, oh, no, we can't go to that because there's a limit of people there already. So having to follow that, but also having the whole idea of, okay, we need to film the accurate thing going on and we want to be present for everything, but wanting to keep distance and wanting to be safe. So having to just balance all of that was a challenge.
Well, along those lines, you know, this is journalism. This was not a public relations piece. So you guys have a challenge. You're telling the story of your friends, of your university, but you can't whitewash it. And I don't think any of you did. And, you know, we've got people like Giselle Manzi, who was in the piece, who works here, but she had to talk honestly, and I think really did. Talk to me a little bit about that challenge of having to cover your friends and tell, because we know no one was going to do this perfectly, right? Moving target, no playbook. I think we all agree the university did a really good job. But what were some of the challenges of telling the complete truth? Did you have a moment where you thought, I don't think I want to air that?
I think just telling the people we were interviewing, like, be honest, tell us what you're going through, tell us how you're feeling. and making sure that they know that
the first 4 people.
This is like a safe documentary to have, because we're just trying to tell the truth, and that's what journalism always is we just want to tell the truth. But having that whole like mentality going in
Ready, 3.
was definitely hard for some people, I think.
Emily and Morgan are going to talk the most.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that. One of my friends, I actually interviewed Paula Bender. I'll be honest, at first she wasn't very like comfortable with us interviewing her. She wanted to keep her information private, which I don't blame her, especially with everything going on. It's scary. And then I think when I told her like this is what our documentary is about, and I think the other students that we interviewed and administration, I think they realized that like this could potentially like spread more awareness and make people be more aware of their surroundings and whatnot, and kind of like a life lesson in a sense for us to like look back at this documentary and be like, wow, like we lived through this, like people experience this, and yeah.
I just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to say something if they have something to
Ready,
say.
2.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the life lesson, because one of the things you guys don't know that we told all these students is the absolute must-ask question is, what's the moral of the story? You know, what did we learn? What lessons have you learned? Because it is always so revealing. So now it's your guys' turn. I'd like to hear from all 7 of you on this one. Tell me what you learned doing this documentary, living through this semester.
Take 2.
I was going to say,
Ready, 3,
and
take
it's
3.
kind of very similar to what Rebecca was saying, which is why I really loved one of her sound bites in there, is that this has shown me that I can push myself and I can do a lot more than I thought I could, and handle a lot more at once than I thought I could. Especially this being my last semester of college. It was really weird having to navigate last semester of college in the middle of a pandemic, filming a documentary, living in the documentary, as Morgan mentioned. So it definitely showed me, one, that the university does care about us, because they have been trying their hardest, even with failures, bumps in the roads. And it definitely taught me a lot about myself in the sense that I really can do whatever I want as long as I put in the work for it. So
again, I'd like to hear from all 7 of you on that, and I've got a wrap-up question after that.
It taught me that I like to get involved with when there's something going on in the world, and I want to get people's opinion on it and their experience instead of just staying silent.
The FAR group needs to talk. Ready, 1, ready,
I would say,
3, take 3.
Like I talked about earlier, like the depth of it, it taught me, especially going into journalism, there are so many different outlooks that people can take on something. So
Ready, 2.
Obviously, we saw in this documentary that COVID affected people in so many different ways and so many different aspects of their lives. So getting to actually sit down and talk to people about that and piece it all together to show that this is one big picture, even though there's so many small stories, I think is really interesting and telling for any type of story that you do.
Ready, 3.
In the rest of the
Take 3. Nice.
So I'm kind of in a similar boat. I also graduate this semester. So I was coming into college, or coming into this last semester, kind of expecting the worst, but hoping for the best, because we really didn't know what was going to be happening. So I'm grateful that I was able to experience my last semester here, no matter what the circumstances were. If we had to wear masks, the classes were a little bit smaller than usual. But one of my favorite quotes, I think, throughout this documentary was one from Giselle, where she said some things work and some things didn't work. And we found that out pretty quickly as well. So we realized what did work for our university, we realized what worked for our student body, and I am very thankful that our student body did take this pretty seriously and that we were able to finish out our semester here. Being someone that's about to graduate and leave this amazing campus, I am so grateful that I was able to experience this. Experiencing it with COVID, on the other hand, that's kind of a different story, but I'm really glad that our student body took this seriously and, did some things kind of... We had a little hiccups along the way, I think, absolutely, but ultimately High Point allowed us to stay here, and I couldn't honestly be more thankful for that.
And then for me, as a junior, not having a lot of journalism experience, I've never made a documentary before and things like that. So it was really just interesting for me to see all the pieces and the kind of the behind the scenes and how each individual 7 of us did a segment and how it really just came together. And I really liked that aspect, to know that everything's like so versatile. There's so many forms of journalism. And then overall, I just really like to see the behind the scenes of COVID and things like that. As far as administration and how much thought they really did put into making sure that we were safe while having a good time.
Take one.
So obviously what everyone else already said, but essentially this is like the reality that we're living in. This like is a real thing. Like we're attending classes in person, and I think Kenzie said, it shows that not only like High Point cares about our students, but it shows like how much the students care about being here in person and getting our education and doing the best we can to go about this. And like Giselle said in our film, you know, you kind of have to just take it one day at a time. And I kind of just, ever since I saw her interview, I was like, you know, like that's the best we can do. And you just got to look at the next day like this is our reality.
Ready, 3, take 3.
Yeah, I agree with everybody, once again. But on the production side of the whole thing, I think there was a lot learned from all of our standpoints. We went from doing quick, like, voiceovers or small packages to producing an entire 24-minute video. And so we learned a lot about organizing, and we learned a lot about what B-roll works and what doesn't. And we learned about narration and so many pieces to that. But I also liked what Ali said, where we learned the importance of like how a little story can actually really help in the bigger picture, and how it's so important to really listen to what someone's saying because you never know where that can really fit in. And it was just a lot of fun to be able to experience something new. On the executive producer side of it, I really liked seeing the overarching thing and being able to help organize everybody's like vision that they had, so that was really, it was cool.
Yeah. All right, so I lied. I actually have 2 last things, but the first one is really, really quick. Has this experience made any of you want to be either TV news reporters or documentarians?
Ready, 1, take 1.
That. That's good. We got some subs coming in for us a little later. And I kind of want to wrap up with one more idea along those lines. You are naturally all in a point of your life where you're looking outward. Your whole career is ahead of you, your lives are ahead of you. It's kind of interesting if some of the parents are here. For those who don't know, they came down to watch, which is really neat. And we, as parents, are kind of on the other end. We're looking back. You will be our age someday. And you will have this really cool documentation of what your senior year, in Melissa's case, junior year, was like at High Point University. And I promise you, you're going to sit the grandkids down and your kids down and say, hey, let me show you what happened. I mean, who's got a little thought on that? I think it's really neat that you have this verification of what you want.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, it reminds me of like being a historian. Like, you're documenting something that is going to be referenced in the future. And like you said, showing our families in the future, being like, oh, do you have a question about what that looked like? Well, I have it. That's like so cool to say. So that's, yeah, I don't know.
Anyone else want to add to that?
So get Morgan.
No?
Okay. Adding on to Emily, I also think that like you always hear about like words, Morgan. Stories that like your grandparents talk about, or like your parents like about the plague or the Great Depression and all this, and like the fact that we're able to create something that like we'll be able to look back on that was impacted the entire world and many people, and show that like we like went through that and lived through that. I think is pretty cool.
I was just going to add that I think it's pretty cool that we're able to say that yes, we lived through this, we lived through a part of history, but on top of that, this university thrived through that part of history as well. So this is something that we can all sit back and look on and realize, like, yes, this was stressful for us to build, and it was a tough semester trying to build this documentary with all the issues that we faced, but at the same time, this is something that we can look back on and be like, wow, our university did that, our students did that, and this team of people created that documentary to showcase that.
Yeah,
so I think that's really awesome.
There were doubters out there. And the university, starting with them, and then all of you guys made it happen and pulled it off. So I want to say for my co-instructor, Professor Barry Thornburg, again, Bob Buckley of WGHP TV here in town, from everyone, these young ladies did most of the heavy, almost all the heavy lifting in this. But I do want to acknowledge that the work of Jenny McDermott, our department head here in the communications school, is fantastic. And of course, it all starts with Dr. Nito Cobain, the person whose vision all of us follow here at the university. So thank you for tuning in to HPU TV and watching our little documentary.
Ready, fade to black. Or fade to clips 2. Fade to clip. Yeah, sure, that works. And mute their mics. Are they muted? All right, they're clear.
All right.
Beautiful. Nice job.
Good broadcast, everybody.
You know he's a reporter because he sits there and he hangs until he's cleared.
Thanks so much. Have a good break.
Well, actually, I sent it to John, I sent it to my husband, I was like, hey, it's going to be live, I tried to watch it. His response was, what's project? I like that you were like, he said, I'm like, good. It was good, but it was good. You were like, oh, it's not like this is what you're doing.
You're welcome. Are you never?
No, I'll come back and visit.
You're never gonna. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Keep in touch. My email doesn't disappear. Yeah, I'll have you around.
I'll email you.
Excellent.
I was gonna ask you. Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
See ya. Melissa, thanks a lot. Yep. See you around.
Bye.